I'm actually the author of Confident and Unleash Your Inner Badass. And what I love to help people do is I help entrepreneurs create internal certainty, unshakable faith, and radical trust so they can fearlessly grow and scale businesses. I'm really excited to see where our conversation goes today about finances and financial mastery. And I love that it's simplified because, it doesn't really matter if you're an entrepreneur or not, but I've had a lot of personal growth in that area myself as owning 2 different businesses, and then also help a lot of entrepreneurs in that area.
It's really easy to get self-doubt when it comes to money, right? Like money is one of those things where, first of all, I think we all know we need to be kind of good at it. How do you make sure that you're making confident decisions and decisions that are aligned, right? What you want, with what your life looks like, with what your goals are and things like that. That can be really a hard thing that a lot of people struggle. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified. I am your host, Jacqueline Crider. Today we have Mr. Brandon Foster joining us. He is a really dear friend. We actually went to high school together. He also has an amazing community where he talks a lot about, people really coming to their own, finding their confidence, things like that. So welcome, Brandon. Tell us a little more about who you are, what you do, and why you're excited to be on the show.
Amazing. Hi, Jax. Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate that. Yes, representing TCA for those of you who are in Texas, Trinity Christian Academy. So I am, a lot of people call me a confidence coach or encouragement king. I'm actually the author of Confident and Unleash Your Inner Badass. And what I love to help people do is I help entrepreneurs create internal certainty, unshakable faith, and radical trust so they can fearlessly grow and scale businesses. That is what I do. So most of what I do is actually in the business coaching realm with people who have decided to grow and scale their business. So I'm really excited to see where our conversation goes today about finances and financial mastery. And I love that it's simplified because, it doesn't really matter if you're an entrepreneur or not, but I've had a lot of personal growth in that area myself as owning 2 different businesses, and then also help a lot of entrepreneurs in that area as well. So I'm excited to dive into today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, like you may not realize this, but the whole reason we started Financial Mastery Simplified was that it means different things to different people, right? Like everyone has their sort of own version, if you will, of what that looks like and how that shapes up. And so, yes, and it's definitely a journey. I mean, I definitely am an expert on a lot of things money, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I always am achieving financial mastery myself, right? There is definitely ways that I'm doing better than others, I guess I would say, right? So I think the way that you frame up sort of confidence is really interesting because and I can't speak for anybody else, but being that I'm ADHD and I was raised in a very perfectionist household, I get a lot of self-doubt, and it's really easy to get self-doubt when it comes to money, right? Like money is one of those things where, first of all, I think we all know we need to be kind of good at it. I don't know necessarily what good means, but good, right? In the sense of like you need to obtain it, you need to get it, you need to do all the things. But what does it even really mean, right? And like, how do you make sure that you're making confident decisions and decisions that are aligned, right? What you want, with what your life looks like, with what your goals are and things like that. And that can be really a hard thing that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, absolutely. A big piece of why we struggle with it is because of self-judgment and judgment of other people, right? Because oftentimes when we're making financial decisions, all we are is we're deciding what we're going to do with the money that we have, right? We're deciding, are we going to save it? Are we going to spend it? Are we going to give it? Like those are pretty much the three options, right? And then within that, it's like, who am I going to give it to? What am I going to spend it on? And and it's interesting because at the end of the day, a lot of that good girl or good guy mentality in whether your personal life or your business or even your finances is because of the belief systems that society places on us, or our parents place on us or religion places on us. And it's very fascinating to me as someone who helps people with their internal belief systems, how those impact our own viewpoint of ourselves. And like you said, is it a good choice or is it a bad choice? Like my friend Francis, I love it because, you know, there's a lot of stigma and guilt and shame around debt, right? And at the basis of debt is just a choice to pay something off over time, right? That's all it is. It's a choice to pay something off over time. Where debt really starts to thicky is when you have more debt than you have income coming in, when you overextend yourself, right? But it's so interesting because some people will be totally cool on like a mortgage because it's a home. Like you gotta live in a home, right? Or whatever it is. But then if it comes to something else, whether it's, you know, self-investment or whatever it is, sometimes people can be hesitant to invest because just the perspective and beliefs have shifted when the reality is it's really not different. It's our own lens of judgment.
Well, yeah, for sure. Well, and it is funny. There is, I mean, I always talk about that. First of all, money is fake, right? Like it's not really a real thing. Like we give it value, we've given it a construct, right? Like it's not a real thing. And it's an important thing to remember because we are placing a lot of shame, self-doubt, blame. Like there's just like a lot of things that are kind of surrounding this area, which is why I'm always encouraging people on the podcast to dig deep and try to figure out, you know, what is it that you actually want outside of what you were told you needed to want, you know, and I, even though my like professional career is mortgage, right? Like that's what I've done for well over 20 years. It doesn't necessarily mean that I believe that everybody should be a homeowner, not because I don't believe they're capable. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do with that may not be the path for everybody. And that's perfectly fine and perfectly acceptable, right? And people a lot of times talk about good and bad debt. I don't necessarily see it that way. I just see debt as a tool, and you just have to understand how you use it. And also like how not to get caught up in the cycle of like you use it and then you layer shame after the fact, right? Because at that point, even if it was necessarily the wrong choice, right, if you will, or the not the best choice, it doesn't really matter. Like what's done is done at that point. So sticking ourselves in this cycle of, okay, I want to do this, I'm going to do it, and then I'm now going to blame myself for making a decision that wasn't the right one, and how it's going to affect my financial future. I tell people when they come to buy a house all the time, I'm like, look, doesn't matter where your situation is, how much income you make, what your credit score looks like, how much debt you're in, how much money you do or do not have. It doesn't matter. If we set out a plan for you, you can become a homeowner, right? Like that's not the problem. The problem is, are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to take on what is necessary? I firmly believe that people are capable of anything. They just have to actually decide, set up sort of a construct of how do we get there, some sort of a plan, and then step into it. Right?
Yeah, I love what you said about that. For me, a lot of it, you know, when I say the term belief, a belief is just a pattern of thought. It's just something that you choose to believe is true. And, you know, because we're talking about home ownership, I remember when my husband and I were living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and my uncle was like, why don't you guys buy a house? And I was like, we can't buy a house. We're not making enough money. And he goes, yeah, you can. And I go, no, we're two former circus clowns. We can't have a house. He goes, how much are you making? Told him. And he goes, you have a really good house. You got like a 4-bedroom house. And I was like, really? And it was like, sometimes you just need that crack of belief in the door of that possibility, and everything else kind of follows in suit. You know, our human brains have what's called a reticular activating system. And
yep, talk about that a lot.
So the way that system works is whatever we focus on, our brain looks for and finds more of it. So like I'm going shopping, looking for red shoes, my art filter is going to find all the red shoes. And even though there's green, there's purple, there's blue, and there's everything else, it's going to basically ignore it because I've told RAS filter to focus on the red shoes. Well, if I flip my RAS filter, say, okay, now we're looking for blue, the red shoes are still there, but they go to the background and my focus changes. And so we can do the same thing with our finances and seeing possibilities if we understand how the human brain works and we understand how belief works and how that leads us to actions. Because there's only three things we can control in life, right? Perceptions, decisions, and actions. But our decisions be determined by our perceptions, and our decisions determine our actions. So it always starts with how we're viewing ourselves, our situation, God, whatever you believe there, the divine, and how you're loved, all those pieces. And so for me, because I work with a lot of business owners, you know, creating a business, sometimes you invest, you go into some debt. And I posted this on Facebook, but I have just completed paying off like 80,000 over $100,000 of self investments and stuff like that. So I'm speaking from, personal experience from debt. And I found that, the reason we use debt is because we don't believe we can pay for something in cash, right? That's actually, and I think a lot of people miss that, and it's like, it's not bad and it's not good that we have that belief. It just is the belief. But if you can just stop yourself and say, okay, this is what I really, really want, and just say, is there a possibility that I could pay for this in cash? And if I could, how am I able to do that? Right. And then if you decide to go in the debt route, there's no judgment. But for me, until I realized like that was the belief that had created some debt in my own life, I wasn't able to shift it, if that makes sense. Because it was like, why am I choosing to use debt as opposed to cash? Oh, well, you don't believe that you can create the cash to do this, right? And that's what's been really beneficial for me as a business owner, is learning how to create that belief that you can expand as opposed to contract. Because a lot of what people do, if they find themselves working on debt and wanting to eliminate that, is they constrict, which means we're going to budget, we're not going to go out to eat, we're going to change everything. It's kind of like, on the extreme side, it would be like, we're burning everything down. No more fun, right? Like, you can't even order pizza for a WWE pay-per-view, Like, you're just going to have to eat raw noodles and suck it up because you made, you're judging yourself. You made bad financial decisions and choices. I found that not to be quite as helpful, because there's also that possibility of, how can I provide value? How can I create additional income? How can I expand so that I can eliminate the debt, but also enjoy life, right? And I think that's something else that people miss is, if all of your money that you're earning goes to debt or goes to things that you don't enjoy, that you feel obligated to do, whatever that is, it takes a lot of the fun of receiving the money, and part of anything we do in life should be enjoyable. We should have gratitude and satisfaction for it. And so when you can feel that gratitude of, yeah, like, I'm making money, we're eliminating debt, and I'm just gonna say, get the pizza again, but like, go on the vacation. What happens is that internally motivates you to provide more value to the world, more service to the world, and make more money. And I feel like a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that one of the things that I'm finding is that people are massively out of alignment. They're not living financially in what they want. They're either living by society's rules or family's rules, what they think they should want. And so oftentimes they're either going in debt or they're creating these constructs surrounding money based on something that doesn't even stay true to them. And the truth right now is that because of the time we're living in, right? The AI, the internet, like, just the mass amount of opportunities that exist, right? We've never had more opportunity to make money, to be able to take the trip either with a travel agent or without one, right? To be able to do basically almost anything we want, create a business right from scratch in an evening, do whatever. And I think that for so many people, as opposed to stepping into that heart of like sitting with their feelings or thoughts, their own divine feeling of like who they should be and what that should look like. It's easier to just say, well, somebody else said that I could just do it this way and that would make me successful. And I'm like, but do you really feel successful at the end of the day with your money, with your career, with whatever it is, right? If you do, and you just happen to find the right blueprint for you, then that's great. But I'm a firm believer that there's a ton of people out there who aren't feeling financially successful or otherwise, and the main component that they're missing is the alignment piece, right? It's not because they're not capable, because we know that to be true, right? They're more than capable. It's not because they don't have all the tools at their disposal. I mean, if you're listening to this and you live in America, no matter if you make very little amount of money or gobs of money, you have the tools at your disposal, right? Like they exist. They're right there for the taking. It's just that people are not willing to do the hard of actually sitting and learning who they are and what that means and what that's going to generate. And you're right. A lot of times they're either so focused on one side or the other, right? The side of, I have to pay off all this debt, I can't do anything fun, I can't enjoy life. Or the flip side, YOLO, right? And they're just spending gobs of money and they're not doing it because it's something they enjoy. They're doing it because somebody told them this is what they should do, right? Like you need to do all these things. And that's, I think, what really makes me sad is, for me, it doesn't matter what your dreams are, right? They're not my dreams, they're yours. You have to know how to step into that. But guess what? I can help you do that unless you're willing to come into alignment and ask yourself hard questions like, what do I want? What do I want my life to look like? What am I naturally good at? How do I figure that out and fix maybe the things that are wrong with my mindset? What have I been scanning for, right? What is my RAS been scanning for? And there's just so many missed opportunities for so many people, not because they're not successful, not because they're not capable, but because they're not looking for it.
I don't know if I could say it any better than what you said it. I was doing a little reel the other day, and I was thinking about what is the most important piece, right? And like building a business. And a lot of times business people are looking for strategy. But the truth is strategy is not as important as clarity. Because if you don't have clarity, you're not going to be given the right strategy to create the end result you actually want. And I always tell my it's like your whole family is like, okay, we're hungry. Let's go eat dinner. I'll eat dinner someplace. Everybody in the car. Nobody's decided where you're going to go. And whoever is driving just starts driving. And then you all start discussing, where do you want to go? Any place but Chinese. Any place but whatever it is, right? And then you realize the place that you all want to go is the opposite direction, right? And so now you're driving the opposite direction. And then everyone's like, well, we're not going there even though we want it. Because we're wasting time, energy, and gas money to get there, right? Same thing with business. Same thing with your finances. If you don't have clarity, you're not going to be able to create or be led to the right strategy that you experience. And then after, then I ask my people the question. I say, okay, now what is more important, clarity or questions? Well, questions is more important than clarity, because asking the right question, what you just said, Jax, gives you and leads you to the clarity that you need. And a lot of people don't stop to ask the right questions. That leads to clarity, which leads to strategy. But then you back it up, and there's something that's even more important than that. And that is your faith. Because when you have a higher level of faith in who you are, how much you're loved, what is possible for you, what is possible for your finances, what is possible for your family, the higher level of faith that you have, that all of a sudden completely changes all of the questions that you ask, which changes the clarity, which changes the strategy. And the way I explain this to business owners and entrepreneurs is, let's say you come over to my house and you go, hey, Brandon, I'm going to invite some friends and family over. My first question is going to be is, cool, how many people? So if I say 5, 10 people, no big deal. Let's order some pizzas. Apparently I have pizzas and brains today. We're going to order, okay? But if that person says, no, it's going to be 1,000, well, that requires a higher level of faith, completely different questions, completely different clarity. Not even in my house. I love you, but I don't have space for 1,000 people, and I ain't cooking.
Yeah, you're right.
1,000 pizzas either, okay? So it changes everything. But if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, when you have a higher level of faith, you're going to ask that higher level question, which is, instead of serving 10 people, how can I serve 1,000, or how can I serve 1,000,000 people? And that's how you are led to bigger, bolder moves inside of your business. Financially, the process is changing. And that's what I love about what I do, is I can take what I can do. We can apply to any area. We can apply it to love. We can apply it to finances. We can apply it to whatever you want to. But with finances, I feel like a lot of people get backwards, because a lot of people try to put strategy first, but don't have clarity. And they think they have clarity, but like to your point, they haven't asked questions. And they haven't asked, is what I want? Is it what someone else told me I should want? Or society dictates I should want? And they certainly haven't asked my favorite question, which is, if anything is possible, what would you want? Because when you add that, if anything is possible, the beauty of that is it removes all of your doubts, all of your fears, all of your worries, all of your limitations, and exposes the truth of what you actually want. And of course, the work is to overcome all those lies, beliefs, worries, fears, and doubt, all that kind of stuff. But you can't really get honest with yourself until you have that. And with faith, it just changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's interesting. So my second book was releasing in the spring of 2026, and it's actually called Ask the Question, and it's about the power of intellectual curiosity and how it is basically everybody's superpower, but we have been trained as people not to tap into it. Like we did it as little kids, and then it's like we got told by society, stop asking those questions, don't do that, don't do it that way. And then we just like shut that part of our brain down. And you're absolutely right. We have to sort of wake it back up. And yes, if you can layer that with faith, I mean, you literally can move mountains, right? I mean, quite literally. And I love the way that you describe that, because I firmly believe, and it's literally one of the only questions I ask before I have a guest who comes on my podcast. Some guests I ask, like I ask you to come on. Some guests come and ask me if they can be a guest. And the question I ask them is, do you believe that people are more powerful than anything, that with good information and clarity, that they can really achieve anything? And if the answer is yes, then they're more than welcome to come and be a guest. And if they believe that there's some pre-structured idea of how somebody can succeed with their finances, whatever, I'm like, yeah, I have no interest in all of that. I always jokingly say I'm like the anti-Dave Ramsey, because I'm like, look, I'm not saying that his constructs or his strategies don't work. They do work, right? Very obviously. He wouldn't be as financially successful and have as much influence if that wasn't the case. However, what I'm anti is one size fits all box, because I feel like this is where a lot of your shame and fear and frustration comes from, is you're often trying to shove yourself down into a box that you don't belong in, right? Like you are literally perfectly made and made exactly to be you, right? And there's no other version of you, right? You are so incredibly unique. It drives me crazy. As a kid, I used to say, well, a lot of people aren't like me in that respect. I'm unique. And I was told, well, no, I mean, many people are like that. And I'm like, no, I'm unique. I'm me, right? Like I'm special in that respect. And it's the truth. And you lean into that in every respect, because when you lean into who you are, I firmly believe that the money comes. Right? Like we're not made to be people that are not successful, that are not living life to the fullest, right? And if you are faith-based, or you believe in a higher power or whatever, then you know that God put you here for a reason. It wasn't a mistake. He picked the exact time, date, place, all the things of where you are in life. And so that means that there is a special, unique purpose. But if you're afraid to step into it or you're afraid to find it, and trust me when I say my God call is huge and it is scary as heck. And I have to remind myself daily to just, it's okay. I don't have to have every detail. I just have to continue asking myself questions and moving forward one step in front of the other. And it's hard because I have heavy self-doubt at moments. But you're not going to get to the level that you want to be financially, mastery or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to what you said earlier, guilt and shame does not create change. And it doesn't. What does create change is acceptance, forgiveness, which is how you talked about. Your next book is on questions. Mine's on forgiveness. And, forgiveness means, the literal definition of forgiveness is remove angerness, bitterness, and resentment towards someone or something.
Stay tuned. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors.
Welcome to Financial Mastery Simplified, your go-to podcast for making smart money decisions. We break down complex financial topics into easy-to-understand advice you can use every day. Our experts cover everything from budgeting and saving to investing and retirement planning. We give you the tools to take control of your money and build the future you want. With Financial Mastery Simplified, you'll feel informed and empowered to make the best choices for your financial health. Tune in to Financial Mastery Simplified on your favorite podcast platform. Start your journey to financial confidence today.
Visit us at fms.tips and fms.college for more information.
Welcome to House U, where we believe in the power of education. At House U, we're more than just a brand. We're your partner in home ownership, dedicated to educating, equipping, and empowering you every step of the way. Education is at the heart of everything we do. We offer comprehensive resources designed to make home ownership simple and accessible for all. From understanding mortgage options to mastering home maintenance, House U provides the knowledge you need to make informed decisions with confidence. We host workshops and seminars, bringing together experts and community members to share insights and build a stronger, more informed community. Because when you're educated, you're empowered. House U, home ownership made simple for all. Visit our website or contact us today to start your journey with House U. Empower yourself with knowledge and embrace the joy of home ownership.
Thanks for your patience. Now back to our conversation.
And in terms of finances, you can be angry, bitter, and resentful toward your job. You can be angry, bitter, resentful toward your bills. You can be angry, bitter, resentful toward your debt, towards yourself. And what's crazy about the power of forgiveness is that forgiveness is removing that and allowing God's unconditional love to flow through that. And, I heard this shift from Dr. Johnny Martini, who is really brilliant behavior psychologist, author, speaker. But he said, when you think about debt, you really need to think about it as those people being investors in you. They believe in you and your ability to pay something back. And it's difficult to pay someone or something when you're not grateful for it, right? So when you shift that perspective to, I'm grateful for them investing and believing in me, or believing my ability to pay, or believing my business, when you shift your bills to, I'm grateful for the service that it provides and how it supports my family and how it supports me, everything changes. Now, when you harbor any anger or bitter resentment towards yourself, that's just a rocky road, because the only person that can create change is you and God, because He's given us that beautiful free will piece, right? And so, I don't believe God violates our free will. I believe He loves us and nudges us, and I'm not here to force anybody's beliefs. I always tell people you can believe whatever you want. If you don't agree with what I say, drop it. If it resonates with you, pick it up and hold it close to your heart. But I believe that a big piece of changing your finances and growing in your finances is that forgiveness piece. And, back to your question, a lot of people are afraid to ask questions because they're afraid of the answers. It's like, we
Oh,
don't
for
want
sure.
to know the truth. Like, how much do I really owe? Or how much would that really cost? Or what would it really take to hit those financial goals? But the truth is, well, this is so rudimentary, kind of like the truth will set you free, like, but there's a lot of truth to that, right? I'm going to say truth one more time. I'm going to say it 7 times. Truth, 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 truth. There is a lot of truth to that. Okay. And, you know, a big piece to that too is insecurity and self-judgment. Because a lot of people are afraid to get help or to ask questions
Yes.
because of insecurity. I did that. I remember, I will be so honest, y'all. I'm an honest person because I believe that if I'm honest, that I'm not blowing smoke and I'm speaking from truth and from experience. But I remember that my husband had been laid off and I had shifted, to being the breadwinner. And I had my Facebook ads for my business did not work because I was learning how to do it. I lost
Yeah.
my pipeline marketing leads, and it was like the perfect storm where my business cash flow was short. And I wish I had just asked. This is the funny thing. God will often put incredible people in your face if you just have the courage to ask and not be insecure. So one of my friends was the vice president of debt and credit for Truist, who oversaw the entire merger. And he's like, he knew me since I was a circus clown. So literally, I could have called him up, Jax, and been like, hey, this is what's going on. What should I do? Did I do that? No, because of insecurity, right? And so I ended up doing like a short-term business loan, which is really like, after doing that, is like it's almost like a shark loan. It's an insane, and you probably know way more about this than I do because this is not my zone of genius. My zone of genius is loving y'all, encouraging you all, helping you all believe in what you can't do, shifting your beliefs. Anyway, but it was like a shark loan. And I remember after I had almost paid it off, I finally told my friend David, I said, I should have asked you about this. He's like, you should have. I would have told you never to have done it. He goes, I would have told you. He goes, honestly, Brandon, he goes, I probably would have just loaned you the money and been like, you pay it off whenever, no interest or whatever. But we do that all the time to ourselves because of our insecurities. We're afraid of how other people are going to view us or think about us. And I know for me, I was like, if I tell him what happened, he's going to think I'm dumb or I'm ignorant or I'm not going to be as much of a badass as I would love myself to be, And it was and looking back on it, I'm so grateful for the experience because number one, I'll never repeat it. Number two, I can now come on here and share. So any of you don't do that, okay? Go call your friend David, whoever your friend David is instead. Have the courage. But it's just so true, I always tell people, are you doing this out of fear or are you doing this out of love? You make your decisions from fear and love. So like my decision to not call him was out of fear, insecurity. So, but if the decision was, I would love to help, that's a different decision, right? And so again, we're back to asking questions, right? Am I doing this out of love or am I doing this out of fear?
No, and that's so valuable and so true. A lot of people who've been listening to podcasts for more than a minute know that even I mean, and I have so much financial expertise or whatever, and with this crazy house situation, and I think you may know part of the story, but basically the long story short is that my husband and I bought a very big, very expensive house. We were in a very good financial position, so that was fine. Well, when the market started shifting as far as like mortgage goes, and we started making less money, and then my daughter was born 8 weeks, 2 days early, and she spent 7 days in NICU, and I had all this other financial complication that sort of kind of came about, right? We were like, oh, we're going to do the responsible thing. We're going to sell the house or whatever. It's under contract, and somebody leaves the half bath water running. It runs for 3.5 days, floods a house, does over $500,000 worth of damage to the house. And yeah, I mean, let's see, several years later, we now finally, after living with my parents for several years, moved back into the house. And it's been a very eye-opening experience because number one, I was always the person who gave the hand up to other people, and for the first time in my life, I was having to ask for help for others. I was having to just lay myself bare and not be afraid to share what was going on, what I was going through, right? And that didn't necessarily mean that everyone helped, and that was fine, but I also couldn't be afraid, right, of just sharing that because so many people, amazing people, did help or would give advice or would provide a resource or whatever it was, right? And so often you're absolutely right. When it comes to the financial space, people are afraid and they're ashamed. I mean, we say it all the time when we come to get a mortgage. People don't want to talk to the mortgage person until they absolutely have to. Why? Because what they're afraid of is that we're going to tell them, you suck, your finances suck, your credit sucks or whatever. And first of all, anybody who's worth their salt in a mortgage, they would never say that, right? Like that is not their heart. And if that is their heart, you should throw them in the trash immediately and find somebody else. Okay. But those of us who actually care, as long as you're willing to work with us, like I have a saying, as long as you're going to get down in the hole with us and you're going to be trying to, get yourself out of it, that's fine. Like, I'll be down in the hole with you. Now, if you're standing on the sideline throwing dirt back in the hole, no, absolutely not. You can go find the door. Don't let you in the ass on the way out, okay, baby? Because I'm over it. But most people really do genuinely want to help you succeed, right? And if they don't, then change that circle because your circle should only be filled with people who want to rise you up, right? Who want to help you find your way. And you're absolutely right. Forgiveness is a huge thing. I can't tell you how many times when I've had these bathroom floor moments where I'm basically on the floor in tears of like, what did I do? Right? Like, what did financially I do? We made this choice. I have to remind myself to offer forgiveness, right? That I made aligned steps, that I asked, if this was in alignment with what God wanted. And the answer was yes. And so the other pieces, I can't control it. I can only control my reaction to it, how I use it moving forward. I'm able to share that story to others and let them know. I promise, no matter what they're going through, the crazy financial turmoil I personally have been dealing with, like, it's pretty freaking bad, right? Like, we're talking dang near bankrupt, like credit looks like a dumpster fire or whatever, and I'm in this space. So no matter what you're experiencing, whether it's I just don't feel financially successful or my life looks like a dumpster fire, it doesn't matter, right? Like, it's irrelevant. If you take these tools, these things that Brandon has shared, these things that I have shared, these stories and experiences, and start sitting wherever you're at and asking yourself questions, you can take yourself off. Like, you will just blow up, but you have to be willing to do that piece. And if you're not, I'm sorry to say it, you probably won't end up in the financially successful mastery place you really want to.
I would also just say, like, if anyone who's listening to this is going through a challenging financial situation, do not assign meaning to it. Don't assign meaning to it that God hates you or he's punishing you or that you're never going to get out of it or that you did something wrong or that you're just bad at making choices or bad at making decisions. It's really, really, really important to not assign meaning to situations and circumstances. Even if you did play a part in it from your choice, you wouldn't have done it if you'd known better. You know what I mean? Because even the choices that we do that we end up saying, man, I wouldn't do that again. Usually that's because we did a choice out of fear instead of love and because of insecurity. I mean, a lot of those negative choices are because we were scared and
For sure.
and not honest with ourselves. And again, you can't create change from guilt and shame. So, and I think that's one of the most important pieces with anything is, if you start to create stories, like if you were to create a story, Jax, because well, I can never own a big house now because when I do, I'm doomed. And like, I have to have $500,000 in flood damage. And, shame on me for expecting life to get even better. You can create so many stories. My husband getting laid off could have created stories around that, or around losing, a 3-month supply. God doesn't want to support my business. Creating stories like that is so dangerous. Because our human brain and our body wants to be right. We want to prove ourselves true. And when you start those kind of stories, you will start to want to validate those. And forgiveness is about detaching from those stories. It's about letting those stories go and saying, no, I know I'm loved. I know I'm adored. I know this was one-off. I don't have to experience this again. Because the other piece of it too is, if you assign stories that you did something wrong, or God is mad at you, or you deserved it, then the crazy part is you won't allow people to help you. You won't allow yourself to find the possibilities and the way out, because now you think you deserve it, you earned it. And that will just create a bigger hole for you. And I don't want that for you, Jax, me. I don't want anybody listening. We don't want any of that. We want grace. That's what we want. We want free and unmerited favor from God.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, and it's so true. I mean, and I think it's interesting. So I'm an English creative writing major, and so I love words, and I love the etymology of words and how all that piece works. And you know that the English language is one of the few languages that actually automatically assigns blame. So like in the way that our language is constructed, whereas like in other languages, you can say plate broke, right? So like it's like that's like a complete sentence. In the English language, it's like something needed to break the plate. You need to like attach someone to have done the action, right? And so I think that a lot of times that's why we as a society, as speakers, right, we're trying to attach like, a reason for why this happened and assign blame. And sometimes the answer is it just happened, right? Like it wasn't against you. It wasn't, the world firing and all this other, junk. I mean, one of the things I had to fight my husband and my 3 oldest on is this thing that they used to say was Bacchus. And what they meant by that was Bacchus luck was bad luck. And I said, like, no, no, like you are putting that out into the world, right? That like this is what follows you, and I don't believe it, right? I mean, things that you can call quote unquote bad happen to every single person, right? Like that's just life, right? And so you attach like your identity to this is a mistake. Don't do that. And you're absolutely right. I have known since I was a little girl that I was supposed to do something big, world changing, life changing. I have known it since I was probably 5 years old. I definitely have any qualms stepping into the big house, no matter how many people told me that it was risk and you shouldn't do it. And I firmly believe that it was fun. And definitely for a minute there, I got a little bit taken. But at the same token, because of how things have played out too, and this is where again you have to look at the correct evidence. You have to be giving yourself a lot of grace, a lot of forgiveness, and you have to have that looking for gratitude. I mean, there are many examples of good that have come out of this, right? Beyond me being able to share my story, right? Like just connections I've made, opportunities that have presented themselves and like that. And so if there is something in your heart, right, that is laid on there, that is what you're supposed to be doing, or maybe a financial perspective, or what's going on with your life, love, or whatever that looks like for you. I'm going to tell you that if you have that clarity, then you should be stepping into it. And it isn't always going to go according to plan. And it might have a crazy little turn, because mine definitely does, for sure. It doesn't matter, right? There's so many beautiful things on the other side. Brandon, I just so being here sharing your story, right? Because so many people have been experiencing things just like what you were sharing, what I was sharing. And there's just so much, I think, beautifulness and just validation. Just hearing, hey, I'm not the only one. And this is how someone took that experience and allowed that to be their own financial mastery and what that looked like for them. Tell everybody like where they can reach out to you. I think you have a community they can kind of
Yeah, absolutely. So you have two options to like connect with me. We got the Facebook lands. I have the Confident AFCO community. You can type that in your Facebook search bar. You can join my incredible community of badass entrepreneurs. And then of course you can also check out my book on Amazon, Confident AF, Unleash Your Inner Badass. Yeah, those are the two best resources I can give you.
Well, I love that. Well, and thank you so much. Any last thoughts before we finish out the episode?
Yeah, I would say don't do your financial stuff all alone. Don't forget that God created you. You know, I am a big proponent of creation and grace. No, you're not in this alone. We create overwhelm in our own lives and business and personal lives because we expect ourselves to have all the answers instead of looking up. So don't be afraid to look up.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I love that. I mean, like I said, hopefully this episode of Financial Mastery Simplified has helped you understand that we always have free resources for you as well. You can always check those out kind of above. And there is always going to be something that is going to, help you grow deeper, wherever you're at in your journey. So we will see you again next week on another episode of Financial Mastery Simplified.